It's time. It's time for the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Blondin. This is episode 33. Welcome back for those who are returning for another week of sports betting action, sports news action. If you haven't joined us before, welcome for the first time. This is your sports betting site that goes over the top stories, the top games, the hot games, looking for the betting action, taking some long shots, taking some high-end games, some underdogs, taking the game that's on TV, that kind of betting podcast. We're looking for action. And this is, like I said, the Overrated Experience. You can follow the Overrated Sports Betting Experience on Twitter at Overrated EXPER2. That is at Twitter, Overrated EXPER2 for the Overrated Sports Betting Podcast. And you can also join us on our Facebook page. Join the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast Facebook page. Simply search. You'll find us. Join. Welcome. Add your comments. Add your thoughts. And of course, this is and we're advocates of responsible gaming. If you do not have the money, you can't afford to lose it. I can't strongly urge you enough not to maybe hold off until you can't afford it. The best advice I've heard in a long time is that there is no shortage of games. If you miss today, there'll always be tomorrow. If you miss this week, there'll always be next week. So please bet responsible. Be responsible. This is for fun. Don't lose your head when you're trying to chase. So I just want to make sure that's clear. What we do this for fun. We do it for put some extra money in our pocket. But at the end of the day, let's be smart about it. All right, Overrated Sports Betting Experience is back again, and we got a lot to talk about. A lot of playoff action going on in the NBA, obviously the NHL. Golf action still going on. Champions League just wrapped up. Quarterfinals. We're into semifinal action. And this week, we're going to dive into more of the NHL and NBA playoff action that's on a nightly basis, wall-to-wall action, sports betting action. We're not going to touch so much this week on baseball. We'll touch a little bit on some news from the NFL, a little bit of news around the NHL and NBA, also at the NFL draft. So let's get to it. Let's open it up. And guess what? You know, you're talking to a sports podcaster that lives in the Toronto area. When I say Toronto area, I actually live in Toronto. So that is quite the area. And one thing about being a Torontonian is growing up, and if you know the sports betting landscape, the sports landscape in Toronto, the team that stands out, mostly because of disappointment, is in the NHL, that's the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, the Toronto Maple Leafs are a long, historic franchise in the NHL. They are, for those unfamiliar with the NHL, part of the original six, meaning that they're one of the first folks in the door in the NHL and have numerous Stanley Cups, 11 Stanley Cups, but they have not won a Stanley Cup since 1967. And that's way before I was born, a long time ago. And you would think at this point, with many teams entering the NHL that have one or multiple Stanley Cups, that the Leafs would have won a Stanley Cup from now, since 1967 till now, we at least have one. But guess what? That's not the case. So each year when we enter the playoffs, we have hope. And for the last few years, with the recent crop of young talent, now getting older, with Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, Morgan Riley, and company, the thought is that we at least make a Stanley Cup run. You know, get to the final, potentially make a few, get to a conference final with this group of players. And that just simply hasn't happened. This team has lost, 4 or 5 years straight? I guess 5 years straight of elimination games in round one. The only time they haven't lost in the first round is the play-in round during the COVID year, where they lost the third game against Columbus to get into the playoffs. Just disgusting, disappointing up to this point. Now, how do I feel about it? Well, I almost feel indifferent about it. I look at it as I've been disappointed already for multiple years. There is a lot to digest when the season's over and you had an expectation of a run that would go beyond the first round. And so we start off, 2023 coming into this year, and the feeling is that there's 82 games, but what does it matter unless, there's success in the playoffs? So here we are. Tuesday evening, puck drop. Toronto, again, takes on the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have been to 3 Stanley Cup finals in the last 3 years, have won 2 of those finals, knocked the Leafs out last year, and we're back. So, you get ready, watch the game, sit in, you're ready to go, and first period ends, it's 3-0 Tampa Bay. So, let's just say the game didn't go well from there. The game ended 7-3 Tampa Bay. The fallout from that is not only did the Leafs lose, it exposed Ilya Samsonov for a goaltender, played like garbage. Looked at Michael Bunting, took a 5-minute major for an elbow to the head, and we'll get to that later. What occurred there as far as disciplinary action that will see him out of the lineup for a few games. So the fallout is the next day when you have 48 hours between now and game 2 to talk about your feelings and your thoughts. And everybody's got a thought and everybody's got a feeling. I can tell you right now, it's like kind of a calm rage that a lot of people have. It's just like a disgust, like just wow. It's like somebody who continuously lets you down. Somebody who's late all the time, or somebody who couldn't come through for you when you needed them at the time you needed them. So right now, I would say that I'm cool, calm, and collective at the moment. But if we're on the show next week and they're done, or they look like they're out of the playoffs, down 3-0, whatever, but there's a chance I might have told you I burned my Leaf jersey. I have, absolute disgust. I will tell you right now, next week's episode will provide an opportunity for you to step away because I'll be using profanity. I will be swearing. And those are my thoughts about that right now. I'm gonna crack it down to game 1. Give it a shot, see what happens. It's a long series, or hopefully it's a long series. And I do have hopes that the Leafs will come back. They are the better team. But I'll tell you right now, they're dead if their stars, Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, do not produce, and Tron Tavares do not produce. I don't care who does, whatever else, they're dead. And they're done. And if this team does not move on, it needs to be blown up. Kyle Dubas needs to be gone. Brendan Shanahan, team president, needs to walk into the board of directors, hand in his resignation, and say it's over and move on, as there has to be some bold decisions made here. But I'm going to keep cool, calm, and collective, and I'll leave it at that. So right now, as far as what am I doing right now? What action do I got going on this Wednesday evening? Well, right now I'm watching Miami get the complete shit beat out of them by the Milwaukee Bucks, who took a beating of their own in Game 1. And Milwaukee, without Giannis, is up 136-116 with about a buck 16 left to go. So this series is going to be tied up. A lot of NBA action going on here. So that's what I'm watching right now. But I actually have money on the Kings Oilers playoff matchup in Game 2. This game to go over 5.5. The Oilers are leading after 1. And I parlayed it with the Nuggets money line win over the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they're looking pretty good so far. So let's hope that pays off. Earlier tonight, a lot of action on the Bruins-Florida Panther game. Florida winds up winning that game, tying it up at 2, heading back to Florida. That's good for me. Put money in my pocket. And that's exactly what I wanted. And I had also parlayed in a live and play over 3.5 in the Boston-Florida game, as it was 0-0 after the first period. Thought that was going to be a problem with my other over that I had, but it did work out. So far, so good. We'll see how the night games go. But when I'm trying to figure out, is this the most exhausting period for sports gamblers? With so many playoff games going on. There's a peak when the NFL is still happening, when the NBA and NHL seasons start up. But right now you got NBA, you got NHL playoffs, you got MLB. So a lot going on there and a lot of late nights, but this is the best time of year for bettors. But moving on to some sports betting news, some sports news in general. So I talked about the Leafs. I talked about Michael Bunting being penalized, kicked out of the game for an elbow on Tampa's defenseman Chernak. It's come down that he's been suspended for 3 games, which I do not agree with. I have no fucking clue what the NHL is thinking. And yeah, I'm going to be swearing on this one. Michael Bunting is a first-time offender. It has always been known that an NHL playoff game is worth more. So the story behind his 3 games is that it was a blindside, or it was an interference. So he went out of his way to hit him. The player was concussed, and the player is going to miss the next game. I've never heard this logic in any way in the NHL over the last few years, where there's just certain criteria for a first-time offender that they would miss 3 playoff games. 3 playoff games. A playoff game is equivalent to like 3 or 4 regular season games. So I'm not understanding where the NHL has come down with this ruling. Disgusting, terrible, and amateur hour, of course, with the NHL. Now, we had a game also a few nights ago, Dallas and Minnesota, where Matthew Dumba hit Joe Pavelski, made contact. And the idea is, I guess he fell back and hit his head, but I believe I saw head contact, and his major was turned into a minor, no suspension there. But Joe Pavelski is going to miss game 2. So again, the inconsistency on how the NHL looks at every situation, not just safety situations. It doesn't make sense, and it's a bad precedent because now they're locked in. They are locked into the rest of the playoffs. If any headshots, that at least need to be a 1-game suspension. Somehow interference, because it was an interference situation versus an attempted legal hit that goes up to the head. They're locked in now to at least suspend if it's a Nathan McKinnon, if it's a Austin Matthews, or it's any other superstar that may also find themselves in that situation. They are now locked in, and I think the NHL community is going to hold them to it. It's a disgusting, terrible call. Bunting should have maybe 1 game. 3 games is way too much. And speaking of suspensions, heading over to the NBA, Draymond Green also suspended 1 game by the NBA. If you've seen the situation where there was a rebound, and you can see there, I posted the video on the Overrated Experience Facebook page. You've probably seen it on Twitter already. Draymond Green comes down. Sabonis also comes down from Sacramento. Sabonis actually reaches out to grab the legs of Draymond Green. And when I first saw this replay, I looked at it and thought, well, he's grabbing his leg. What's Draymond to do? But when you watch it over and over, Draymond Green goes a little way too excessive on how he's separating himself from Sabonis. He literally stomps on him and puts pressure on him. It is a vicious act. And Joe Dumars, who made this decision, talked about Draymond's history as well. So I got to believe that this 1 game, based on if you look at the footage a few times, it does make sense. So 1 game, you got my support. It makes sense. Originally you didn't, but you got my support. NFL news. Pittsburgh Steelers, once again, one of the smartest franchises in sport. They find a way. They're a team that finds talent in all the right places. And they've really developed a top receiving core coming into this year to help Kenny Pickett further his development. And what we're looking at is the news that they've received Allen Robinson. They've traded from the LA Rams, if I believe a 7th-round pick, and shifting around of funds. And I think Pittsburgh's retaining $5 million of his contract. And he'll head to the Pittsburgh Steelers to join that receiving core that already includes Deontay Johnson and George Pickens. But, the other offensive weapons at Kenny Pickett's disposal is going to be obviously a running back, Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, tight end who's seen a lot of action last year, is absolutely putting together a strong offense here, and the Steelers just do it again. So Allen Robinson, underutilized, wasted in with the Rams. So the Steelers do a great job of buying his stock at its lowest. And right now, Allen Robinson's stock is at its lowest. And also the Rams are looking to cut salary. So they're like a shark with the blood in the water. They're going to get Allen Robinson. He's getting up there. He's late 20s. But he fits really well into a team that has a depth and a wealth of wide receiver talent. Look for Kenny Pickett to exponentially develop in the passing attack as he becomes the full-time Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. It's a great move there. NFL draft. Now, if you haven't gone on this bandwagon, guys, come on. Next Thursday, you're going to see the hype. You're going to see the hype that's going on with the NFL draft, and you're going to think, it's a Thursday night, let me get in on it. But start looking at it now. I mean, if we're looking at it right now, Bryce Young, Alabama cornerback, is projected to be the first overall pick. The Carolina Panthers traded up with the Chicago Bears a few weeks back to get that first-round pick. They need a quarterback. The odds are that they're going to take Bryce Young. The odds were kind of closer with C.J. Stroud, Ohio State quarterback, weeks ago, but that separation has significantly widened as C.J. Stroud's a plus 800, Anthony Richardson is a plus 2,500, and Will Levis, the other quarterback, plus 7,500 to go first overall. Now, that is 4 quarterbacks. I can tell you that Carolina is definitely going to take a quarterback. Now, what is interesting is up from Wednesday today up to next Thursday, there's a few picks that might change hands, which may significantly change who is taken in the NFL draft. So as an example, the number 2 pick by the Texans is absolutely, we don't know what the Texans are going to do. So the idea is that the Texans need a quarterback, but will they hold off this year and trade down and or take maybe like a player like Will Anderson, who's maybe the top-rated player, who's a pass rusher out of Alabama, versus taking C.J. Stroud or another quarterback? We're going to see, but that's a significant change and really shakes things up. Then you got the Arizona Cardinals at number 3. Kyler Murray's the quarterback, so it looks like they're probably entertaining offers at number 3 for teams like the Vegas Raiders or Tennessee Titans to potentially move up, or maybe the Colts, who are already sitting at number 4 looking for a quarterback that may feel that the quarterback they want, they need to move up one spot. But be warned, NFL GMs, as you listen to this podcast, as I know you are, that many teams over recent history have made significant moves and traded draft capital to move up in the draft for a quarterback they liked. So I just remember 2 examples. Obviously, Trey Lance Young. Trey Lance. Geez, sorry guys. Trey Lance, 49ers. The 49ers moved up multiple draft picks to get Trey Lance, and Trey Lance is started maybe 1 or 2 games before injuries have derailed him, and now reports that they're receiving calls to potentially think about trading Trey Lance, as Brock Purdy is the guy now. The Mr. Irrelevant that they picked with the last pick in the NFL draft is suddenly moving ahead in the depth chart, and maybe rightfully so, than the guy they traded multiple picks for. That's outstanding and a warning. I was looking at the Pittsburgh depth chart. Mitch Trubisky is the backup quarterback who spent a lot of times as starter last year, but he was also quarterback in recent history that the Bears moved significant draft capital to move up, thinking he was their franchise quarterback. Many stories of teams missing on those quarterbacks they believe are going to change their franchise. So, but everybody is shooting for the next Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and trying to move up to see if they can get that guy. So we'll see what happens, but a lot of interesting stuff there. Take a look at your sports book. Take a look at all the different draft betting options, and you may find that you might have a fun Thursday evening as Roger Goodell comes out, hugs, high fives, fist pumps, all these first-round picks. All right. So that's the news and notes before we get into the bigger events. I'm going to start off with the NBA playoffs right now. NBA playoffs are going hit I can't even think of the word I want to use. Started up last Saturday, and I'll touch on a few situations, few series, not all of them. Some of them are pretty much done. I'm not going to say much about the Sixers and Brooklyn Nets. I feel the Sixers up by 2 games right now. That series is over. I'm really not going to pay any attention to that. Boston's manhandling Atlanta. I don't see much coming out of that. Right now, Denver, I can't see them slowing down. I think they'll roll over Minnesota. I think Minnesota is an incomplete team. They were able to sneak back in after the loss in the play-in game for the 7th seed against the Lakers, but I don't think there's much there, to be honest. I thought there was more, but right now they're not showing much. So just quickly, probably the most interesting series right now is the Sacramento Kings and the Golden State Warriors. Sacramento has jumped out to a 2-0 lead in the series, and as I mentioned, heading into Game 3, Draymond Green is suspended for the Golden State Warriors for a game, so they're going to be short, and they're in trouble. Sacramento look good. Now in the NBA, a team looking good at home may look different on the road, and as much as Sacramento looks good, they're not getting any respect whatsoever when it comes to closing out this series. Now, I'll give you a few tidbits on why that is. So if you look at the playoff NBA Finals, so to win the NBA championship, Milwaukee, without Giannis right now and losing Game 1, but winning Game 2, is still a favorite at plus 250. So if you go down the board and you look at the 6th favorite team to win the NBA championship, the Larry O'Brien Trophy, is the defending heavyweight champion, undisputed Golden State Warriors at plus 1,300. That makes sense if I looked at this line before the first 2 games of that first round series against the Sacramento Kings. The Sacramento Kings are 2 games ahead of the Golden State Warriors in their playoff series. Golden State's 1,300. The Sacramento Kings are plus 2,500. So they're still behind as NBA favorites, significantly behind the team that they're up 2-0 on. So it's weird that there's still no respect. The Sacramento Kings get no respect. Now, I came into the series telling you that I think Golden State will come back. I do believe that, but I guess after every passing game, you start thinking, whoa, Sacramento's looking pretty damn good here. So watch out. But even going into tomorrow night's game on Thursday, the Kings are 5.5-point underdogs, which was earlier 7.5 points. So the money's gone on Sacramento, but even 5.5 on the road. I know Golden State is absolutely going to play a better game on home court, but I still like that window of opportunity, 5.5 points for Sacramento to at least cover. I do see Golden State winning, but interesting there. Sacramento gets no respect. All right. The other series to kind of keep an eye on, a series that's tied right now, that is the Knicks and Cavaliers. Knicks win Game 1, but Cavaliers pretty much dismantle. When I say dismantle, they quite easily handle the Knicks in Game 2 the other night. The series now shifts to MSG. Spike Lee in the audience, maybe Denzel Washington and other celebrities are going to be out in full force. Knicks are -2 in that game, and what I like in this one is a over-under, and you don't believe this, record it now, but I'm going to take another under. I would say that this game is going under 211, which is the line, and that's if you're looking at the fan book duel. But here's a good example of why you want multiple books. The Bet365, as of yesterday, was showing a line of 212. So obviously, if you had your money spread out amongst multiple books, such as FanDuel compared to Bet365, why would you take it at 211 when you can get it at 212? So that's one of the significant benefits of having multiple accounts and choosing your favorite line. That puts you in a better advantage to walk away with a win. Also, the series, it's not significant, but the Knicks are still plus 116 underdogs to win the series. I don't know if you go out of my way with plus 116 to make that wager, but I'll throw it out there as a nice value pick, in my opinion. Also, looking at the board, Clippers-Suns. I think Clippers-Suns is a very interesting series. Now, I'll tell you, I thought the Phoenix Suns would have rolled, 4 or 5 games. maybe not 4, but 5 at most, maybe 6 to stretch it. But at no point would I feel that the Suns were at risk of dropping the series to the Clippers. But I don't know. The way the game has gone is that the Clippers got their road victory. I think that they played solid for a certain amount of that game. It was tied at half in the game 2, and the Suns kind of like took over from there. But I like this game. I like this series shifting back to Los Angeles and seeing what happens. So you have that game 3. You have the Clippers that are 2.5-point underdogs. I gotta like on Thursday plus 116 the Clippers. Why can't they win? They won game 1, and the series. I still like. I like the Suns, but I mean, when you look at the value provided for the Clippers, they're plus 250. I mean, plus 250. This is the Kevin Durant factor. If you're looking at it logically, plus 250 seems pretty good value to me for a team that is split on the road, heading home and playing the Suns 2 games on the road. So I think plus 250 is worth sprinkling a few dollars onto it. And please tell me that you watched in game 1 at halftime where Russell Westbrook, and I don't know how the hell this happened. So he's walking back, I guess, at halftime, and this guy was just ripping into him. I don't know exactly what he said. It probably wasn't nice. You got to feel it wasn't probably favorable to Russell Westbrook. He confronts the fan in the fan box. So imagine being in a skybox. Now I think this setup, this box, is somehow in a pathway where the Clippers would have to get to their locker room. But he confronts this fan, and there's a kid there sitting eating pizza, and the guy's getting off the couch, and they're getting into it. I've never seen this before, and I don't understand how, even though probably Russ was probably in theory justified to chirp back to a fan that probably was going overboard on saying some stupid stuff, but I can't imagine that it's a good thing that your players are confronting, paying fans, verbally, approaching where they are. So like, Matt, imagine just trying to down a beer and you're like, holy shit, there's Russell Westbrook, and he's over by the couch over there, and he's ripping into a fan, like about to get in a fight. Weird scene. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. It's odd. It's very odd, but hey, it's entertaining. That's what it's all about. So Clippers are decent value there. That's kind of what I look at the NBA so far. I believe that the Milwaukee Bucks at 250 are still the favorite. They got the easier road to the final. They have home court advantage where they dominate. Giannis had the negative X-rays on his back, so he wasn't playing tonight. But we expect him back soon, or at least when they feel that they're in danger. I don't feel that Milwaukee believes they're in true danger in any way against Miami, to be honest. So we'll see what happens there. But Milwaukee still to play, and the West is going to be a shit show to try to get out of there. Too many tough teams. Moving on to the NHL playoffs now. A lot of action going on here. The action is night after night, so each team, for the most part, is playing every 2 nights, unlike the NBA, where it seems like it's going to take 6 years before the first round's over. And what we have so far is, I talked about off the top, the Leafs getting smoked in game 1. Now, again, the Leafs, who got knocked out in 7 games against Tampa Bay last year, did win the first game against Tampa Bay at home, 5-0, and that didn't turn out to their favor. So I'm I'm concerned, but I'm not going to admit it. But I'm not too concerned necessarily. So the Leafs at plus 108 probably provide great value for the series as they go into game 2 tomorrow night. So I'm going to put my chips on the Leafs, and I may have to put out there I'm going to burn my jersey if they don't. Like I said before, I don't know. I'm debating that. Here's the series that I think we have a team in the New Jersey Devils that had a spectacular regular season, contended for division with Carolina, took the home ice advantage of the Rangers, but I think we have a lack of experience here, and I do like the New Jersey Devils to fold under this pressure. And I think that we're going to see Rangers win this in 5, maybe 4, maybe even sweep this thing. So I'm not going to touch the series with the Rangers now, up 1 and minus 205. But what I'll tell you is, going into tomorrow night, the Rangers are plus 110, And I would take them on the road to take 2 games out of New Jersey before heading back to MSG. Now, interesting to note that last game, I did take the over 5.5, and it didn't look good. But what was very promising and something to keep an eye on for you live bettors, or even looking at the 5.5 now, which I did take the over again, is that Lindy Ruff, coach of the New Jersey Devils, down 4-1, did pull his goalie down 3 goals. And if you know me, I've said many times that I don't understand the analytics where coaches do not pull their goalie down 3 goals while some of them do. It doesn't make sense. There's no rhyme or reason why, if you're losing, what do you have to lose by pulling your goaltender down 3 goals if you're got a face-off, if you got a team stuck on an icing, like something where you could potentially get back in the game. But that raised my eyebrow and say, oh, they're doing it now in the playoffs, so this could be something to think of as the game develops, and maybe there's a 2-1 game heading into the third. There's a better shot, there's more than 2 goals, and there might be value there. So keep that in mind, that they're maybe pulling goalies with 3 or more goals versus more than they did in the regular season. Now, what else we got for the NHL, for especially Thursday? I got a parlay for you. I have a parlay that the Avalanche and the Vegas Golden Knights, both teams, dropped their first game. The Avalanche dropped against the Kraken. Now, if you watch that game, the Kraken were helped by Grubauer, goaltender. He was standing on his head. You had that feeling that he just wasn't going to let one pass. He's a good goaltender, but he's not that good. The Avalanche are going to pump him. They're going to pump him on Thursday. And I do like Vegas to squeak it out past Winnipeg. Winnipeg is a good team. They're a really good team, actually. They should probably have have home ice advantage. They should have put up more points, as they really fell off near the end there. But they got everything you want. They got the goaltending. They got the depth forward, solid defense. So not surprising they won. But I can't see Vegas dropping 2 at home to open the series. So if you put the Avalanche and the Golden Knights together, with a nice parlay, put $100 on it, you're going to win $139. I think that's good as gold. So that's what I'll suggest for a parlay tomorrow. Also, just heading back to the Avalanche game, team total is at 3.5 at -110. I do see that the Avalanche are going to light up the Kraken for at least 4 goals. I say 5, but at -110, I think there's value there. So team total, Colorado over 3.5. And that is the NHL story heading. But keep in mind, guys, it's a lot of live betting opportunities, a lot of action going on. Player props that I haven't looked into a lot of that, but player props there's a lot of stuff going on. If you want to, just take a look at your sports, what they have to offer. Maybe there'd be something appealing for you. Now, to close out this week's podcast, I've been talking a lot of golf lately. I've shifted the priority of this week's golf matchups to the end of the podcast. So right now we have the Zurich Open for New Orleans, the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. And what the uniqueness of this tournament is that it is a team competition. So there are teams of 2 that are competing versus your regular individual format. So there are 80 teams starting on Thursday, paired up, and they will play 2 different formats depending on the day. So there's a 4-ball format and there's a foursome format. And the 4-ball format is going to kick off on Thursday. And what that means is teams will be taking alternating shots. So, for example, player A tees off, player B will take a second shot, and then player A will take the next shot, then player B will take the next shot until the hole is done. And player A will tee off on all the odd holes, and player B will tee off on all the even holes. So, and what will happen is it's basically one score because they're alternating shots. And then, secondly, on the round 2 and round 4, they're going to play foursome, which means basically is that both players on each of the pair will shoot, but only the best score will be taken at the end of the hole. So as an example, Patrick Cantley and Xander Schauffele, defending champions, will be back and the favorites in this tournament. They will, for example, if Cantley had a par on a hole, but Schauffele had a birdie, the score that will be recorded is the better score, which would be the birdie. So something of interest, a little change up from the regular tournament. Interesting stuff. But one great story here that you may want to think about, as I know I did, is that if you look at the teams, one of the teams is made up of, just hold it, wait for it, is Matt Fitzpatrick and Alex Fitzpatrick. Now, Matt Fitzpatrick, for you golf fans, you should know he was the winner of last week's RBC Heritage Classic. He defeated Justin Spieth in extra holes. Now, he's also the defending U.S. Open champion. He's going to be pairing with his younger brother, Alex Fitzpatrick, who's currently on the European, it's called the European Challenge Tour. He's not a PGA Tour card member, but if these brothers win the tournament, what happens is, well, more importantly for Alex, the younger brother, is that he'll be provided a 2-year exemption on the tour. So he'll be a 2-year participant on the PGA Tour, also entry into the PGA Major Championship, which is very significant, that his brother basically could carry him into a higher level of golf. So I don't know if you want to cheer him or cheer against, but if they win, you'll see his younger brother on the PGA Tour. And that's just a nice little wrinkle when you're watching the tournament, or at least checking the scores. Matt Fitzpatrick and Alex Fitzpatrick. So those are the stories heading into the weekend. We have a lot going on. There's, again, I think I only missed, maybe the update I forgot was the Champions League semifinals are set. Yes, I did miss that. So Man City defeated Bayern Munich. Some people say Bayern München. Aggregate of 4-1. They will move to the semifinal for 3 years in a row. They will take on Real Madrid, who took out Chelsea. Real Madrid is the defending Champions League champions. And the other bracket's going to be Inter Milan versus AC Milan, which is a joke because these are inferior teams. So really, your May 9th and May 16th home-and-home matchups between Man City and Bayern Munich are going to be your true championship. And June 10th is when, it's a Saturday actually, is the Champions League final. So a lot of betting action there, and we'll get into maybe more in-depth betting as the final approaches. Well, that's it. I'm going to say it again. The pleasure was all yours. Can I say go, Leafs, go? I just did. All right. Good night, everybody.